Thank you for staying with us here on the program. And we continue now with a conversation. This time around, we have the presidential candidate of the National Conscience Party, NCP, Mr. Martin Onovo, a petroleum engineer. Mr. Onovo was the presidential candidate of the Action Alliance in 2011. Thank you for joining us on Politics Today.
Thank you very much.
A lot of people will be asking, the last time you were wearing or you were carrying the flag of the Action Alliance, and this time around you are in NCP. Why did you change?
Well, the first thing is that you must remember that I was in the NCP ever before I went to the Action Alliance, because we had serious disagreements with a faction of the leadership in NCP then. So we had to part ways. Now that we have reconciled and resolved all those differences, we're happily back together.
And you've dumped Action Alliance?
It's not about dumping. It's not about dumping. The reality is I was in NCP before I went to Action Alliance. And the Action Alliance has changed a lot since then. Because don't forget, it's not the same leadership. So, and my natural position or natural party will be in the NCP, because I've been a Ghanaian follower since 1988. So my natural political party is the National Conscience Party. But if we have disagreements, I can move.
Now you are the presidential candidate of the NCP, and one will be asking the question: what are your plans? What are your vision, carrying flying the flag of the NCP?
Well, it depends on what sector, but I have to mention a few things.
Okay.
We have made 5 promises. 2 are general, 3 are specific. The first general promise is that we will do what is right consistently. It's a general promise. The second general promise is that we will lead by example. In other words, we're not going to impose austerity measures on you while we live in ostentation. We will lead by example. The third is that with only $9 billion, I say only, comparative to what you have spent since 1999, we will double power in 2.5 years. That's a specific promise. With only $9 billion, we will double power in 2.5 years. Current power levels will be double, which is completely insufficient. Because if you look at per capita power comparison between South Africa and Nigeria, you find out that South Africa has about 60 times, 60, more per capita power than Nigeria. With over 40 million people, they have over 36,000 megawatts. With over 200 million people, we have 3,000. So you can see Nigeria has the lowest public power per capita in Africa, including war-torn countries. That's how bad it is. So we're saying that in 2.5 years, with only 9 billion, we will double that. The other promise is that we will reduce fuel price. And we're going to reduce it because we're going to change this regime of importation. So the strategy for reduction in price is by increasing domestic refining capacity, and because that's lower cost. The importation of a product you produce is very wasteful. You see all the additional costs, port charges, management charges, transportation charges, insurance charges, taxes that are imposed by this perverted regime of importing what you produce. And Nigeria is the only country in OPEC that has accepted this as a norm. We have also said that we will increase the minimum wage by decreasing the maximum wage. And I'll give you an example. Minimum wage in the US is about $10,000. The American president earns about $400,000 per annum. This is public information. Anybody can find it. Look at the ratio, 40-1. According to the study conducted by Financial Intelligence magazine, using the minimum wage in Nigeria of 18,000, which is even in dispute, many governments are saying we cannot pay. Some have been owed, even at the 18,000. Compare it to what a senator earns. According to the report published by Financial Intelligence magazine, it's about 1,500 times. You can see the index. In the US, the president earns about 40 times minimum wage. In Nigeria, a senator gets about 1,500 times minimum wage. That is unjust, that is unfair, that is unacceptable.
All right.
So we are not going to cause any inflationary impact because we're not increasing the wage bill. You need to understand that, because a lot of people argue you increase minimum wage or you cause inflation. Yes, if you increase wages across the board, you cause inflation. But we're going to maintain the size of the wage bill. What we're going to do, we're going to redistribute that same quantum of the wage bill, so that the people who are getting outrageously high will get a little bit less, so that the people who are getting unacceptably low wages will get a little bit more. Very simple.
All right, I'm quite interested, very much interested in how you want to tackle the issue of power, because that's a problem that I grew up knowing UpNepa, and I have children now, and they're also talking about UpNepa. Now, $9 billion, you said?
Dollars, yes.
$9 billion is what you said, and I guess you spent way more than that in trying to fix power, yet we don't have it. How do you hope to do that?
Since 1999, the Financial Intelligence Report says we have spent about $51 billion.
In fixing power?
Yes. Don't forget that, remember your power probe, House of Rep power probe, $17 billion as at 2007. Since then, we have continued spending. And yet, we are at the same level where we were in 1999. We're still about 3,000 megawatts. And recently, I had it drop to like 2,800 and something. Recently, very recently, just a few weeks back. So, the reality is that Nigeria is powered by a past neighbor. That's the reality. I have one at home, I have one in my office. That's the reality. And that's the case for most people. They have one at home, they have one in their office. That's how Nigeria gets powered. And that even if you compare in Africa using per capita power, we are the lowest. Even in Africa, we're not comparing with America. We're not comparing with Japan. In Africa, we're the lowest. They will tell you that Ghana does only 2,000. Yes, but how many people are in Ghana? Less than 30 million. So you see how they are better than us. Because to get the per capita power, you take the public power supply and divide it by the population. Very simple. So you find out that Nigeria has the lowest, even in Africa, including war-torn countries. So that is completely unacceptable. Now, I'm a registered engineer, don't forget. I've worked in the US, I've worked in Europe, I've worked in Nigeria. We've done projects. I come from the oil industry where we power ourselves. It's only in Nigeria that every simple basic thing becomes a challenge because of the Nigerian factor. Elsewhere, if you spend $10 billion, you get 10,000 megawatts. But that's in generation alone. Now, do you know what we did to avoid people saying we're making false political promises? We used the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission figure of $1.5 billion per 1,000 megawatts. It's their own figure. It's government figure we're using. And I'm telling you, we have done projects in the oil industry that are much less than that in Nigeria. So I am talking as a world-class Nigerian registered engineer that has practiced all around the world. This is easy. This is not complicated.
Because a lot of people would say...
This is not complicated.
We've made a move as a people to privatize a sector of...
let me disagree with that.
A sector of the power industry.
Let me disagree with that.
You do not agree
let me disagree
to the
with that.
privatization.
Did you privatize? What is your record of privatization? What is the Senate report on privatization saying? Privatization is a failed concept because you're not even privatizing. What we have done is convert public property to private property. And let me prove it with data.
In one way, that seems to be what privatization is.
No,
in a sense.
No, not convert. No. You purchase. Excuse me, sir. Let me give you data.
Okay, go ahead, please.
The first thing, I'm using government data, not opposition data. Government says it got $2.2 billion from selling our power assets. After it sold the power assets, a few months thereafter, government brought 300 billion intervention funds for the power sector. How much was 300 billion then? About $2 billion. The same amount he claimed it recovered. That's number one. Number two, more recently, about 2 months ago, government brought another 200 billion for the power sector, for the private power sector. I'd like government to take 500 billion and give you your private business. This is silly. But we have tolerated as a people all kinds of iniquitous, unacceptable, and completely destructive decisions